Well, today, as the nation pauses to remember one of the darkest days in our history, could the biggest threat to our security be as close as your computer keyboard? Fox News today has learned Islamic militants are planning a massive online attack on the United States. So what does all this mean? We're joined tonight by two experts on cybersecurity. Luis Rincon is an expert on wearable technology, and Michael Balboni is the former director of Homeland Security for New York State. Great to have both of you here. Michael, I'll start with you. In addition to running New York Homeland Security, you also ran the Cybersecurity Agency. What we're hearing tonight, Islamic militants are bragging online that it's only a matter of time before they launch some sort of massive attack on our financial system or on our infrastructure. What do you make of this? How successful could they be?
It's consistent with their whole global effort to recruit, to spread their message. What they want to do is try to increase their footprint. Doing that is hard when it comes to tanks and missiles because they don't really have that infrastructure, but they're trying to get it. But you go to the internet, you can get a huge reach, and that's really what they want to do, particularly if they can bring down a financial sector of any country, but specifically the United States. It's the poor man's weapon, it turns out, at this point in time.
That is so smart. Well, one of the fellows working with the so-called Al Brittani, that's what he calls himself, he is the fellow that hacked the personal Gmail of Tony Blair, the former prime minister. With weapons like that at their disposal, it seems like they have a powerful front on this internet front.
Well, all you need is a dedicated group of individuals who have access to computer hardware, who are doing nothing but trying to develop new types of modes of attacks. Whether it's new worms, new viruses, new ways to spoof their addresses so you don't know where they're coming from. We're seeing a lot of this beforehand. Up to now, it's been about taking out data, stealing money. That's really what the net attacks have been focused on. But now I think we're going to be opening a new phase of this where they really are going to go and try to take down the adversary and make a statement.
So the world has changed so much in 13 years. Luis Rincon joins us now. And I think, wow, what a leap, what a change this has been over the years. You look back, what are the major innovations that have put us so much at risk? There's a positive side to all this research and technology. Now there's a negative side too, right, Luis?
Sure. Gerri, thanks for having me. So there's obviously a negative side to this. I think overall, though, we have to unanimously agree that the advancements in technology over 13 years have been a net win. The number one change that has happened, and that you guys are specifically right now concerned about these vulnerabilities, is the proliferation of smart devices, specifically smartphones. You got to remember, 2001, people actually still had to do what I call go online. You had a specific device that was connected, perhaps even still through dial-up, either at the office or at home, and it was an event to go online. Now, if you have a smartphone in your pocket, or a tablet, or even a wearable device, that device is constantly connected to the internet. There's a lot of interactions that are taking place that didn't occur back then. So in terms of the amount of actions that are happening online, the amount of data that's being created, that's the number one change.
All right. I want to show folks some comparisons so you can see what the difference is between 2013, now and 2001. Take a look at this list. This is interesting. So obviously we didn't have smartphones, as you just said. There were no tweets. There's 500,000 a day now. Consumers and credit cards on iTunes. Take a look at that. Amazon sales annually times 75. Email sent daily, an incredible increase. The world is a very, very different place. The risks are all very different. You were nodding your head when Luis said that smartphones are the new thing. They're also tracking devices, aren't they?
They are tracking devices. One of the things that we don't have with a remote device is the ability to really encrypt everything. There are devices that can do that, but not for the consumer as it is right now. So therefore, every time when you do online banking using your iPhone, that's an added concern. In addition, which they can track where you are. The geospatial tracking devices in the NSA report all sorts of concerns about the government's ability to track where you are. Well, the bad guys could possibly do that too. Convenience, ironically, drives vulnerability. The more convenient it is to do all the things with our hands on a device, the more opportunities they have for someone to come into that conversation, into that transaction, into that network.
So, Luis, when you look at this, we are hearing tonight that the jihadis are essentially looking to recruit people with great educational backgrounds, because a lot of those folks would have the kind of computer skills that are needed now to do the kinds of things they want. Does this square up with where you see technology going today? And what, it must be simple to hire people who have that kind of training.
There's definitely more people aware of how technology works nowadays, and more people who have the ability to manipulate software, write software code. I will not comment as to the ability to recruit those people towards Islamic militant state. That's something that I'm completely unfamiliar with. But in terms of what is this going where technology is going, I think there's a lot of things that the consumer need to remember that they can actively do to protect themselves. Yes, as my colleague just pointed out, these things do track your activity, but there is basic settings that you can change on your phone to help protect against that. There's also third-party services, including identity theft protection, and things such as password managers that you could use. It's good to begin with those basics, to have an understanding of how that technology works before you really start, getting considerate of these more kind of involved vulnerabilities.
Wow. Yeah, I definitely need to know more to stay safe. We've just been reporting, Michael, over the last several weeks and mostly this month, that some of the hacks that we've seen lately, JP Morgan Chase, the hack at Home Depot, fears that maybe not jihadis, but Russians behind this, maybe state-sponsored terrorism. You said this is the terrorism of the poor guy, right? The guy who doesn't have a lot of resources at his fingertips. Is our government prepared to fight this? And is it the same kind of tools that you normally use to fight a foe?
Yeah, the Congress has really shown an inability to develop a consensus as to really what you want to do. President Obama announced over a year ago, we're going to have this whole cyber initiative. We still don't have a safe harbor for folks to be able to share the attack modalities so you can better mitigate or perhaps prevent the attack that's coming. We don't have a kind of a stopgap of liability so that when you share this information, you don't get caught up in the whole liability issue. These are really necessary steps that the government can provide. Other than that,
they're not doing it.
They're not doing it. They can't reach a consensus on it. They've not passed any legislation. They've been trying for years. I've spoken with folks at the Department of Homeland Security, as well as the Homeland Security Committee in the House. They've been trying to get things going. They haven't. So it really is up to the consumer. Just what he said. You've got to be aware. You've got to pay attention to this stuff. And you just can't go and use the device and, forget about it.
Look, I can't protect myself from a hack that hits my bank. At the end of the day,
true.
There's only so much that I can do. And in fact, Washington needs to get up off its keister and do something.
Completely agree.
Michael Balboni. Louis, thanks for coming on as well. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.